Hello and welcome to Chinwag. I'm Kim from Pooches Galore.
And I'm Carla at Complete Canine.
And today we are talking about your essential dog walking kits and caboodle.
We
I don't know what
are, and
caboodle is.
caboodle's a great word.
Yeah, I know. It came into my head and I was like, I'm going to say it, but I don't actually know what it is.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of looking at like you said, generic what to take, but also some extra training tools that you might want to have if you're working on particular things with your dog.
Excellent. So there are literally a gazillion pieces of equipment you could buy. I just went to Crufts and every other stall was leads, harnesses, treat bags, toys, leads, harnesses, treat bag, toys, everywhere.
Yeah, and it's very much made for the human eye, isn't
It
it?
it very much is. And I am easily swayed by that. I am the lover of a nice lead, I have to admit.
Uh-huh.
I'm very
Okay.
easily influenced, but I do have very specific parameters. So if it fits what I want it to do and it looks pretty, I'll pick the
Mm.
prettier one.
Yeah, I'm completely not like that at all. I'm very much if it's completely practical and it's cheaper, I'll get it.
Okay. Well, that's good. We're going to have a good balance on this chat then,
Yeah,
aren't we? Because
yeah. My
um
brain says it's going to get really muddy in the type of work and where I train. So I don't look at how it looks
but
because
I also that's yeah, my work stuff is very different. My personal dog
yeah,
walking stuff is very
yeah,
much like it's coordinated. And when I had
yeah.
a boy and a girl dog, they very much fit gender stereotypes. Millie's was pink, Stanley's is blue.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I do also think that because I have a pointer and we go off on big hikes and we run and our day-to-day walking lead is a 𝙒𝙚𝙡𝙘𝙧𝙬𝙖𝙜 biothane one that you can just run
Mm.
a cloth over and it's clean and dry and doesn't hold any moisture in
Yeah.
under 3 seconds. So I do, it does have to have, it has to tick the boxes of does it
Mm.
do what I want it to do? Is it practical? Is it hard wearing? Is it going to get ming in? And then does it look pretty?
Yeah. That's really interesting. I have like a difference with the long lines and stuff. I don't like the biothane lines personally
Yeah.
because I like the rubberized grip of the
Yeah.
hand grips ones and similar. So that's where I get on better with them. And they're super small as well. So there's not an amount of lead for me to have to work with. So I do put mine in the wash probably more than I would if I was having a biothane line.
I've never
So
put my biothane ones in the wash.
yeah, so I do put the hand grips ones in. They do come up really nicely and they're still
Yeah.
rubberized really well after. So that's my preference of them.
Yeah. I think for me, for the biothane long lines, I can in between sessions wipe them down. They're clean. I don't have to take them home and wash them. They're
Mm,
ready to go for my next session straight away. I don't have to have more than one.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I have washed long lines and I vowed never to do that again. So
They are
that
gross. Yeah.
they're minging, yeah. And I think I did wash them once and I was like, I'm not doing this again. And then I found my
Mm,
𝙒𝙚𝙡𝙘𝙧𝙬𝙖𝙜 ones, and everyone will know that I love my 𝙒𝙚𝙧𝙬𝙧𝙬, and they do extra light through to like really heavy duty, but the clips on all of them are super strong. So they have, and that means that I don't have to worry about them. I just take my little rag.
yeah. How do you get on with like dogs that leash bite with the biothane ones?
I've never had a problem.
Okay.
I've never replaced a long line.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And I would
Mm.
say that they're pretty durable. I've never had a dog bite through any of the biothane ones.
Yeah, I haven't used them enough to kind of test it, to be honest, but
Yeah,
I
no,
was just wondering with the fabric.
yeah, no, because they're really hard. They're really hard wearing. But yeah, I've never ever. I've had some of my long lines for 7, 8 years, not replaced them.
Hey, that's good going.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, and I like them to be really bright. So most of mine are bright pink, mainly because my company is like pink and grey. So I
Mm.
do like sway towards that, but with a long line, I like it to be super visible. So if I'm working in public, it's so obvious that we've got a long line attached to a dog.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
I
good point.
I do like it to because they can be a little bit of a trip hazard. My dad had a very bad accident with a long line, nothing to do with him or I, but a lady let her dog chase Millie, who didn't like being chased, weirdly. Um, and the owner said to my dad, just stand on the long line, which I would not really recommend. And he did. I wasn't there. And it pulled him down and he broke his arm in 4 places. So
oh no,
you do have to be super careful. I'm very aware of using long lines.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's all the equipment, not knowing how to use it as well.
Yeah.
So if you are using a long line, don't stick your dog on a 10-foot line and 10-meter line and expect your dog to know where the end of the 10 meters is before you practice kind of using it.
Or just letting go and then letting somebody else deal with it.
Yeah, both of those things. There's a lot of ways you can learn to reel them and teach your dog to sort of recall within that space, and then let them feel the end of that lead in a very calm manner, and not shooting to the end of it and, you know, ripping your shoulder out, which happens quite a lot too.
And I think that goes for like everything we're going to talk about, doesn't it? Like everything has a positive and a negative almost. So everything's going to have a way of using it better than other ways. And long lines are probably like, they have a lot of negatives, but the positives are really there. You just have to sometimes really look for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose you could say that about things like treat bags as well. So I love having a treat bag on me for walks.
Yes.
I do not like having treat bags on me for agility.
No.
Or other people wearing them.
No.
And for some dogs, having a treat bag on your body just drives them absolutely nuts if you've got one that jumps up at you. So having them not so visible and obvious and in pockets are better, or in a back pocket is better. So,
but then getting a treat out in a timely fashion from a pocket is really challenging. Yeah, so it's
or a plastic bag. No,
a poo bag filled with treats in a pocket makes most dog trainers' toes curl. Like, no, not in a good way.
Or when people have like cheese and ham in a little food bag. And it's a wet day. And people are in and out and it's just sticking and it doesn't work.
And there are ways that, like, you know, if I put my professional dog training, dog on good treat bag on, which is my go-to, I've had one for years and years, can't find anything better. If I put that on, Stanley's like, oh my God, what are we doing? Whereas if I've got a little Cocoa Pup, like dog walking, like handbag, I suppose is probably the easiest way to describe it. That's my day-to-day bag because I can put my phone in it, I can put my treats, my poo bags, a coffee cup and stuff in it and go for a walk. So I use that on my day-to-day walks. He doesn't bother with that one. He knows it's got treats in it, but he doesn't bother with it. Whereas my treat bag is very much signals to him that we're doing some fun training, something that's, you know, more designed for learning. So he knows he's going to get a lot of rewards. Whereas the treats I take out on my walk are his kibble, because we don't really need high value stuff, and he doesn't get very much of it. He does know if we're going to Pret for a coffee, though, he gets a treat. Even if we walk past and it's not open. He's like, oh, are we going here? And I'm like, no, not now.
Yeah, dogs have a really strong association with pretty much a lot of things that they see and hear in their life. So they say, like with Canicross as well, like if you spoke about this before, which if you have a certain, you know, harness, your dog will associate that with a state of mind a lot of the time. So if you do have a treat bag on you only for training sessions where you go once a week to your puppy class obedience class, and then you don't use it in other aspects of your life, you'll probably find that your dog does really well, has that association in your puppy classes, but then you can't proof what you're doing in other areas because that little golden bag of joy unlocks quite a lot of focus and stuff from your dog. So try to be a bit more consistent if you want that consistency in places by using the same tools and dressing the same as you do when you go to those places.
Okay, I feel like we're jumping around quite a bit. Let's go right back to basics. So by law, your dog has to wear a tag with your address on it outside of the house. Ideally, that would be attached to either their collar. I would have it attached to their collar. You can attach it to their harness as long as their harness stays on them outside of the house. Stanley wears a collar with a tag on all of the time, because if he were to get out the garden or, you know, anything like that, or sometimes I walk him, he doesn't have his harness on, I know that he's got his tag on at all times. The little known fact is it has to have your address on by law. Everyone puts their dog's name on, would not recommend. So your surname, your phone number, and your address on that
Yes.
tag. So
Yeah.
that's essential. You can belt and braces it by having one on your harness and one on your collar, but that's what it needs to have outside of the house.
Yeah, like you've said, a lot of people tend to lose their dog through back gates, or
Yeah,
they're
fences
in
blown
between
down or
transit.
yeah.
Yeah, so actually having it on the thing they always wear. Some dogs don't always wear collars either, but it's
No,
your
no.
best case scenario.
Yeah, I would say more often than not, your dog's going to have their collar on. And if they are a little bit of an escape artist or your garden isn't fully secure, then definitely having that collar on most of the time is going to be the best way forwards. Small tag attached, nothing too dangly. A lot of dogs don't like it when their tag hits on their water bowl and stuff, and it can cause a bit of aversiveness. So just small tag, practical this one.
Yes, very practical.
Yeah. Stan wears like a tag that's flat that slides onto his collar because he scratches a lot and it jingles. So we have a size one. More for me than him.
Sanity.
Yeah, absolutely. She used to drive me mad. And because I never take Stanley's collar off. So at night and stuff, it would still jingle.
Yeah, the only time I've done that, well, to be fair, my old retriever didn't used to wear a collar in the house. He was pretty good and he was pretty bomb-proof with going out anywhere, as in he'd go and lie on the front in our very small cul-de-sac that was very quiet, and he'd come in again, but times have changed.
Yeah.
But with my brother's dog, I will take that collar off at night because she's very jumpy and excited, and then she'll suddenly decide she wants to go for a little rub around the sofas, and then she'll scratch her collar, and you're just like, nope.
Thank you.
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, so there's loads of options out there. You can just find one that suits you, that's but just be really aware that they can be quite noisy, and your dog might find that quite aversive because it's normally quite near to their ears as well.
Yeah. So comfortable, secure, and with a tag with the appropriate things on.
Yeah. And one that does not really tighten. There are occasions where a half check or martingale collar is beneficial. Your sight hounds, where their head is sometimes narrower than their neck, is useful. But generally, a flat collar with a secure buckle is what we're looking for. Nothing fancy around that.
No.
And you can go as fancy as you like.
And some people really do.
And some people go all out. I was at Crufts, they go all out.
All out, yeah.
Some
personalized.
Diamante.
Oh God.
Yeah, you name it. You name it, there is a collar out there for you.
Yeah.
My dog's is biothane for cleanliness.
Okay, yeah.
With brass buckles. It's very nice, but yeah. I've had fabric ones for Stanley. They don't last. They're not worth it. Again, wipe clean. And then harnesses. This is going to probably be the most controversial thing. I don't know. Probably. I don't know why harnesses are so controversial. I only walk my dog on harness. Very rarely. It's the only time I don't use a harness for Stan is if we're going in the car to a walk and the distance from the car to going off the lead is super short, and I'll be like, don't need a harness for this. You're predominantly off the lead, and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think this is the only time that I would say, for me, a harness is not appropriate is either, as you've just said, or if the dog is a dog that is very, very touch aversive, and a harness might really not be for them, even if you've done any desensitization work. Or they've got an injury where they can't wear it.
Yeah. Or as a spaniel owner, a dog that goes into the undergrowth, because harnesses are a little bit more likely to get attached to stuff, and I might take the harness on and off. But again, for your day-to-day walks, the harness is going to be the most comfortable thing your dog can walk in. And yes, they might pull into the harness, but that's a training thing. The harness will not make your dog pull, nor will it fix their pulling. It is not magical. No.
And I think, like you said, obviously the dog physically can pull into the harness more. And if they're frustrated, they'll probably pull against the feel of it. And whereas if you were just using a collar, it would be physically disenabling them to pull as hard, but you'll just get all the choking sounds with it. So it's not it's not a better option because it's physically hurting your dog.
Yeah.
Like we can work on that if we actually put some time and effort into it. We can actually do it. And all of the spaniels can learn to walk on a harness.
Even spaniels. Yeah, just because on the collar they can't put as much pressure in, and it is cutting off their air supply. That's not a reason.
No.
With the harness, it needs to be a Y shape. And what that means is it comes around kind of their shoulders and joins into a single piece and then goes underneath, rather than one that goes across their shoulders. And that's because the ones that go across their shoulders limits the range of movement of their front legs, which makes their gait a little bit off, which can lead to problems later on in life.
Yeah, so an investment in a good harness and training might actually save you money in later life for all of the arthritis and the issues that come with restricted movement.
100%. I saw a collie running in a very popular H-shape harness where you can have Velcro bits at the side and you can put their name on. Don't recommend. Never recommend anything that identifies your dog by name. If your dog is well trained, they will respond to that by anybody, and some people don't do those for good reasons. And their legs were like do, 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 and there was no like flow to their running, and I like physically hurt me that they. So a really well fitting harness. If you've got a puppy, ask around, because loads of people will have harnesses that their dog's grown out of. And, you know, they will be. I've got 3 or 4 harnesses sat in a box waiting for the next spaniel. Here in my life. You know, people will have them. It's one of those things that you can borrow and share, and you don't have to invest. And when your dog's fully grown, invest in a really good harness. Stanley has had one harness his entire adult life.
Yeah, that's good.
We don't swap and change. But on all of the equipment, what we really need to make sure is we just cast our eye over it, make sure there's no weak points in it, make sure that there's no, like you were saying before, if you've got a mouthy dog or a mouthy puppy, that they're not fraying their lead or getting into their harness or anything. So always checking the equipment is sound before you.
Yeah, and also where it is tightest. So a lot of dogs tend to find they get rubbing bits underneath their like shoulder joints on the front here. So that can be quite uncomfortable for them when they're moving. With some harnesses as well, with dogs that are quite fluffy, you can get hot spots if they're in them quite a lot. So what I do sometimes recommend is that you have maybe two different company harnesses. So they're all Y-shaped. And sometimes that just means if your dog's in it quite a lot and does seem to get fluffy, matty, fair areas or whatever from their harness, that you can sort of interchange them a little bit and just make sure you're brushing them out a little bit more.
Yeah. And for those owners that have equifleeces and those kind of jumpers for their dogs, either to keep them clean or to keep them warm, this is the kind of year where we're ditching the equifleece and we're moving into more naked walking for the dogs. So just make sure that those harnesses are adjusted to fit them now, rather than with that kind of extra fleecy layer on as well.
Yeah, definitely. And for a lot of dogs as well, to have a little handle. So a lot of harnesses have a little like handle bits on the back as well. So they're pretty good as long as you've got the Y front one. If they've got a handle on the back, especially if you've got a larger dog who maybe is experiencing a bit of reactivity or whatever, you can sort of help them manage them a little bit more. If you've got a small dog and you need to help them over stiles or whatever when you're walking, you know, that can be really helpful for you. And actually in agility, what I encourage people to get is the tags. So buy the add-on tags, so that you've got a handle there on your dog's body that's, you know, not just the end of the lead or the harness. So I do find the tags really helpful as well. And
for those of you just listening on audio format and not watching us on YouTube, Carla's doing an amazing job of demonstrating all of this with her hands, which I think for those listening on the podcast will be really helpful.
Okay, yeah. So a tag is like a clip-on handle loop.
It's just like the end of your lead, isn't it? It just clips on. Yeah.
It's a handle, so you can clip on. And then they're inexpensive, and they're honestly they make a big difference. And you know, if you've got a dog where you're trying to hold them and they spin and you get your fingers trapped in the harness bits, if you've got the tag on, it spins, it swivels, it's swivel catch. So actually you don't get that issue either. So
Okay, next controversial topic. Who thought this would be such a controversial episode? Your dog's lead. Oh my God,
Yeah.
the leads. For me, it's a standard fixed length lead with a really strong clasp and a nice handle. That's it. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I am, and it is no secret, not a fan of retractable leads. The only time I have ever used one was when I used to walk a bulldog called Boise, who used to love swimming across a river, sitting on the other side of the bank, staring at me, and would not come back for love nor money. So he ended up on a retractable lead because I could have it in my pocket. And when we got near the river, he would go on the retractable lead and I had a little bit more control over him. That was it. It's the one time I've used one. I loved that dog so much, but Jesus wept, he was a pain in my backside.
Sounds like it.
Oh, he was like literally one of my favorite dogs I've ever worked with in my whole life. I loved him so much. But yeah, pain in the bum.
Yeah, I don't use retractables.
No.
There are times where I've considered them over long lines just for a specific environment that I might be in with a specific dog. So a dog that is really good on the lead, as in doesn't pull the lead, but you can't have them off lead, but you're in somewhere like a sort of woodland or forest, where they're coming sort of in and out, going off to sniff things, and long lines sometimes. I mean, even extendables are horrendous in there, but you know, I've thought about it sometimes. And then we have got a wonderful client who has a blind dog who uses it for the dog because actually it's more appropriate, and he walks really well. So yeah, it's very odd situations, but
I lie actually, because anyone who follows me on Instagram will be like, oh, you got one for Millie as well when she had 3 legs. Yeah, I did have one for Millie because she'd gone a bit deaf and she didn't need a long line, she just needed to be connected to me, and she was not a problem. Her walks were like 20 minutes. So yeah, there are very specific ones, and if I am to ever use one, it's the tape one and not the what I call the cheese wire, because they can really get caught around dogs' limbs, human limbs. They can cause some really horrific injuries.
Did you see the picture I shared of one of my agility clients with his leg all like so raised up from one? Yeah, it's really painful.
They look horrific injuries. And I don't like the handle on them. The main thing I really don't like is the handle. I don't have particularly large hands, and I never feel like I really have hold of that handle like I do with a long line. And if a dog runs to the end of the retractable lead, that lead is going to ping out of my hands. And then the dog is running, being chased by a box. That sounds like scary for a lot of dogs.
Yeah, if you drop it on the floor, that's it. It's a never-ending cycle of being chased by a box.
Exactly. So I just steer away from them. Very rarely will I discuss them. Very specific cases, very specific dogs. But overall, it's a blanket ban for me.
Yeah. It does make me really laugh when I watch someone try to reel it in when their dog's right on the end of the lead. And it's like,
forward,
full extension back. Yeah. And it's like as fast as possible. And then they end up grabbing the wire and then hurting themselves. And I'm like, whoa, this is not going well for you, is it?
I think there's an easier way of doing this.
Yeah. For sure. So, and they're also, what I say to people is, because some people use them for puppies to give them a bit more space. And what I will say is that, okay, I understand that, but also your puppy has this constant tension on their body. So when you eventually do want to do recall training and you suddenly unclip this pressure, your dog's like, whoa!
Yeah. And
whereas if you've got a loose lead, like a long line that's really lightweight and loose, they sort of get this feeling of being a bit more free and make decisions rather than it be like a sudden change in pressure on the body.
I also think from a loose lead walking training point of view, what tends to happen is, not always, but I see it all the time, is you'll be walking your dog and you'll have that lead clicked quite short so that they're walking next to you. And then you get to an area, and in Harrogate, we've got a big area called the 𝙨𝙬𝙗𝙬, which is a massive grass area, which is dissected with loads of roads. So for a lot of dogs, they can go off the lead, but if your dog's not great on their recall, it's also like a little bit dangerous. So you'll get to this area and you'll think, oh, lovely, my dog can have more freedom. The dog will pull to the end of whatever lead they currently have. You'll be thinking, yeah, of course, you can have some more line. you unclick, and so the dog learns that pulling into that pressure gives them more
Yeah.
freedom, which is
Yeah.
not helpful.
No, yeah, like you said, there's sort of, I mean, some people do manage to clip their lead off at like 2 meters, so they'll clip it
Yeah.
off, so there's a bit of a J in the lead, and that is better.
Yeah.
But it's usually not the case. So no matter how far away your dog is from you, they're always going to be pulling you because they're always going to be at the end of that lead. So
Yeah.
there's no opportunity really for you to teach your dog to loose lead walk because they physically don't have a choice. So
Yeah.
if they're making choices, they're going to make them in the future. Whereas with the long line, you can, or a standard clip lead, they have that amount of space that you give them, and they will start to feel unrestricted and that they can walk at your side or within that meter bubble or whatever
Yeah.
you're working with.
Exactly. So there's loads of downsides to them, and only the rarest of upsides. So
yeah. So for me personally,
right.
walking. So if I'm walking other people's dogs, which I don't do as much as I used to do, I will probably 90% of the time walk dogs on a 5 meter long line everywhere. And I know and I'm confident in how to reel it in and out and manage it and put lead locks on my own hands. So that for me, if I can teach clients, which a lot of the time I do teach clients how to do it, and they feel so much happier walking their dogs on them, where it's obviously safe to do so. If you don't feel confident with that, then a 2 to 3 meter lead and sort of managing that, I think, is a really good option when you're, especially in your training period as well.
Yeah, and especially with puppies, where we want them to actively explore the environment and get really confident with stuff as well. So.
Definitely, yeah.
The other things I like people to be really aware of, and this is a bit of a left field one, is what they're wearing on their feet.
Yes.
Which I know sounds, the human's feet, not the dog's feet, which I know sounds a bit random, but the number of training sessions, especially coming into summer, where clients turned up in flip-flops. I love a flip-flop. I am a flip-flop wearer. I do not walk my dog in flip-flops.
Yeah, I've done that a lot in summers, and it's not good for your feet structurally, and they're also slippy.
For me, it's more that you don't have you lose a lot of security. You do. If something happens, you don't have the stability in your shoes. If your dog jerks on the lead out of the blue, you're not secure, and then you're putting everyone at a little bit of risk, and like you say, you can turn your ankle really easily. So just being really aware of what your footwear, what footwear you're wearing, and the downsides of some of it, because
I've trialed everything as well. Like I've walked dogs barefoot, which I'm okay with certain dogs, but I wouldn't recommend it to everyone.
Not doing that. No, thank you.
And I did use flip-flops for years for dog walking, but I've switched to sandals. So they're quite grippy on the bottom, and they grip around my heel as well. So they're fine. But one of my favorite things is when in winter I call them the Sunday shiners. So the Sunday shiners are the people that go for their Sunday dog walk in pure white shiny shoes, and they go out on footpaths, and then they end up getting a bit of like muck on their white shoes. So I see them about all the time. I'm like, oh, Sunday shiner. If you're not one to get your nice shoes dirty as well, like just invest in some actual dog walking shoes with grip on the bottom.
It's more the grip. I mean, they can be as white as you like, but as long as they have a decent grip, so if something unexpected happened, that you and your dog are safe.
Once again, if you've got a large dog or a dog with high prey drive or a dog that is reactive, you need that grip on your shoes.
And I don't think it's something that you would necessarily think about as at the forefront of your mind, but it's something that we do need to be aware of. And then apart from that, the only other things I've got are what kind of treats you take out. So making sure that if you need treats for your dog, that they are suitable for the environment in which you're working. So they may need to be higher value if the environment's busier or more distracting or more challenging to your dog. I can use kibble for Stanley in all environments because he's fine with it, but I would not recommend that for everyone. So what is going to be most reinforcing for your dog? And then, like we mentioned earlier, how are you going to transport that around your walk?
And I would usually recommend against, just from experience, using anything shredded. So shredded ham, shredded chicken that's really bitty and loose, where you can't control how much you're giving, or if you need to treat on the move and you're dropping it a lot, it just bits everywhere, doesn't it? So stuff
Yeah,
that kind of you can get little chunks of. Or if you're, to be fair, if you're going somewhere and your goal is to just get your dog's nose on the floor sniffing, use the shredded stuff.
yeah.
Fine. But just think about what you're going to be doing
I
when
think
you're
as well,
done.
if you struggle with treat delivery, which is a skill in itself, use the squeezy tubes, use your
Yes.
primulas, your liver pates, all of
Yeah.
those things. There are loads of different ways of delivering food to your dog or rewards to your dog. It doesn't have to be small
Mm,
pieces of kibble or cheese or what, apple, whatever it is that you're using. Think
mm.
about the way that's going to be easiest for you. For me, if I need something higher value for Stanley, it's squeezy liver pate
Yeah.
every time because
Yeah.
it's so easy to deliver
Mm.
and it keeps his attention a lot more because he
And
knows
it's inexpensive as
it's
well.
inexpensive.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Primula.
Yeah.
I swear,
Yeah.
dog trainers keep the Primula industry thriving.
They do, don't they?
I don't I
Steph
don't
buys in bulk.
yeah, I don't know of many people nowadays that go, ooh, Primula on toast, like they maybe did in the
No,
80s.
no, I don't even associate it with being a people thing.
No,
Well, neither of us do anyway, but
no, no. I've had a couple of clients who rarely, and they do tend to be an older generation where they've gone, oh yeah, I've got Primula in, and I think, yeah, but really, people like Primula, do they still make that? And I'm like, yeah, just
yeah,
for us, just
yeah,
for us.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and maybe a little tug toy. You can get really small, like pocket tug toys that you can
Yep,
just have in your
they're my
pocket.
faves. Yeah.
They don't have to necessarily be massive. They can just be really little, and they're fun to just have a game with every so often. But they're not taking,
Mm.
you're not. If you want to take a rucksack out with loads of stuff in, brilliant. But you don't have to on your day-to-day walks. There are quite small toys on the
Mm.
market that you can have and
Yeah,
use.
definitely. And it depends what your dog likes as well. And
Totally.
I would say don't, with your tug toys, most important thing is don't leave it lying around all the time. If you want that tug toy to be absolute fire for your dog, keep
Yeah.
it locked away until your next walk or your
Yeah,
training session.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with some of them because they can be quite expensive as well. You don't want
Mm.
them to be wrecked in
No,
between.
shredded. Yeah.
Shredded, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you had a dog
I'd
like
say,
Millie.
yeah.
Millie would take the toy on a walk and be like, thanks, and then just start shredding it.
Oh, bless her.
And Stan doesn't like playing with toys on walks at all, so we don't take a toy. So I had both extremes.
Oh,
I had one
you
dog
have.
who absolutely loved playing with toys and would, you could take any toy and she'd love it. And Stan who doesn't engage with toys at all, but he loves his food on walks. So, your dogs. So
Mm.
take what's going to be work, what's going to work for them. If they love scent work, take a small,
Mm.
scented article out with you and hide that. Whatever it is, just that you can carry really easily.
Yeah, if you've got a Spaniel Labrador, they like to carry. So
Just generally.
something to get the teeth into to carry or to hold,
Yeah.
yeah, is always a good thing, especially on the way home. It's the way
Yeah.
home thing, isn't it? I want to bring a little prize
Yeah.
back home.
Yeah. Yeah.
A stick.
My first golden retriever, when you drove onto the drive, you had to have something in the car that she would carry in for you. So I used to always save, like, when I say parking tickets, I don't mean like I was fines, like the parking, what they call parking, yeah, parking tickets. So,
Yeah.
and receipts and stuff. And she would carry that
Mm,
little piece of paper in, like, so
yeah.
happy. So yeah,
Oh, that's really cute.
she was cute. Of course,
Oh.
she was cute. So yeah, so just having a think about what your dog
Mm,
likes, and then maybe taking some bits out for them to enjoy in their walk. But
yeah.
definitely form and function over style, making sure that
Yeah.
it's safe, making sure it was well fitted, it's not causing your dog any problems, and then
Mm.
you can go as sparkly as you like after that.
Yeah, if you really need to. I would say the one thing that we've missed is poo bags, obviously.
Oh yeah,
Take your poo bags out in abundance. And
yeah,
I always recommend to people that have large, strong, reactive dogs, whatever, that you pre-scrunch your poo bags before
yeah,
you go out on your walk. Just because once you're out and you're trying to handle your dog and there's someone coming and you can't get your poo bag open, but you can't
yeah,
leave poo, just get it ready, throw some treats on the floor, pick the poo up and go. It's
yeah,
just much easier to do it before you go.
totally. My
Mm.
favorites are the Adios ones. They are
Adios.
Adios. They are by far and away the best on the market. In my humble
Mm.
experience.
Do you use handles or no handles?
I'm a no handle kind of girl, I have to say.
Mm. Yeah.
But I'm not that bothered. I think it's just when I have them on subscription, and I've had them on subscription since COVID times. So
Mm.
then they originally came without handles, and so 5 years later,
You're still anti-handle. Yeah.
I'm not anti-handle. I just the ones that are delivered to me don't have handles.
Yeah. One of the girls that works with me absolutely detests the scented poo bags because she said she associates the scent with dog poo. So she
Yeah.
can't smell it, like the lavender scented ones. I bought her a pack of, I think, menthol ones before, and she was like, I need them plain and without handles.
Some people are very specific. I'm happy that they
Yeah.
just constantly get delivered and we never run out. So
Yeah.
I love a subscription. Anything that can be
Yes.
delivered to me on subscription that I don't have to think about, I'm in.
Yeah. Great.
Real. Well, I didn't think it was going to be as controversial as it was, but you know.
Yeah. I think it's, practical and comfortable.
Practical and comfortable.
And sparkly if you can afford sparkly.
And sparkly if you want to.
Yeah.
Fab. Right, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.